I have 10 tips for brand new NCOs in the military that I think, from my experience, you should know to be successful. Hey, I'm C-Wire with the C-Wire Nation. Welcome back to the channel. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe and hit that bell icon, as your support greatly helps me out. So let's get into this. So, being a brand new NCO, how do you be successful? Well, first, you can look at it as like, well, you wear the rank, so they have to do what you say. And although that is true, I am here to tell you, and something I learned early on as a NCO in the Marine Corps, which beginning for us would have been corporal, was if they respect the man that wears the rank, those stripes on your uniform become much more powerful. And I'm going to give you some tips to help you do just that. All right. So, tip number one, having accountability. What do I mean by that, gentlemen? Having accountability, knowing where your men or women are at all times. So if they have dental appointments or they have to go out in town to do something, you have a record of it, of where they are when they left, and you're keeping in constant communication with them. In case you haven't figured it out by now, the military loves accountability. So you have to know where your people are at all times. That's going to help you out. The second one is taking care of issues. As an NCO, you're going to deal with a variety of problems, and your men are going to be coming to you to ask you to help fix them, and you need to be approachable. So if you have a Marine or a soldier or what have you that's having a pay issue, take them down to admin and see if you can get it situated. If not, then take it up to your platoon sergeant and see if they can get it fixed. But make the attempt to fix their pay issue. Okay? Because I don't know about you, but we all like to get paid. If they're having issues at home, try to find a way to help them take care of that. If you think it's something that might be outside of your scope, go get your platoon sergeant, either your staff sergeant or your gunnery or sergeant first class, whatever branch you happen to be in, and ask them to give you some help or some guidance on how to deal with this situation. You got to show that you care. Because when your troops see that you care, they're going to follow you. Plain and simple. Next thing is know your Marines, soldiers, sailors, or airmen. This is probably one of the most important ones to be successful. Being an NCO just isn't just barking orders, yelling, and smoking people all day long. Although it could be that if the situation warrants it. But I am here to tell you something I learned early on as an NCO. One of the biggest hallmarks is knowing your men or women. And what do I mean by that? Know them personally. Get to know them. Know what their home life is like. Know where they're from. What are their hobbies? What are their personal goals? Now, why do I say know what their personal goals are? Because part of being an NCO is you're taking this young individual who's on their first contract, see the 4 or 6 years, however long the length is that they signed for. It is up to you as the NCO to guide them through and help prepare them to exit the military if they so choose after that contract is up. And you want to set them up for success. So knowing your Marines and what their hobbies and what their goals are after the military, if they do decide to leave, will help you out, because then you can start helping them maybe put action plans in place that they can start acting upon and doing, so they're set up for when they get out. Now, this also cuts for those who want to stay in. If you have a few that want to stay in, start helping them out. Start getting them in line for the schools that they need to go to get promoted and things like that. Running it up the chain of command, like, hey, I got this Marine here. He wants to go to squad leaders course. How soon can we get him in? This is what you need to do. As an NCO, it is extremely important, and I can't stress this enough, gents, extremely important to set them up for success, whether it's either if they're staying in or if they plan just to do their 4 and out. Doesn't matter. Okay? The next one is accept the fact that you're probably going to fail from time to time. Now, I know you don't want to hear this, and even I didn't want to hear this or accept it when I was in an NCO. What do I mean by accepting that you're going to fail? Just accept that sometimes you're going to make you're going to fail at being an NCO. You're going to make the wrong decision. You're not going to make people happy. You may fall on your face, but remember, you too, as an NCO, as a new NCO, you're learning as well. You're on this learning journey along with everybody else. So one of the ways I found to navigate that is to lean on your senior NCOs. So if you have a couple corporals or sergeants that have been there for a while, lean on them. Ask them for advice. Okay. And this is something a lot of you should already be doing as you're coming up as a PFC or a Lance Corporal, private, whatever, watching what your NCOs are doing and learning and taking that knowledge in. Okay. So just remember, you're always learning. If you get to the NCO ranks and you think that you're done learning, you got your stripes now and you got it all figured out and you can do whatever you want, I'm going to tell you right now, flat out, you're going to fall on your face and you're wrong. That's a surefire way to fall on your face. It's different to fail when you're attempting to do a good job and you're seeing what works and what doesn't. And I will say, and you probably have heard this before, failure is the best teacher. Okay. So whatever it is that you failed at, do a replay on it in your head, look at why it failed and what you could have done differently and carry that forward into the next thing. And that's probably the best thing you can do. Which ties me in, which I actually tied 4 and 5 together with the continue to learn. So yeah, continue to increase your knowledge base. You go to the schools that you can get into, because whatever you learn in those schools, you're going to bring back to your unit. You're going to teach that down to your juniors. So keep that all in mind. Lead by example. One of an important one that I hold very dear. Number 6, lead by example. Your men that are under your charge are going to be a direct reflection of you. Keep this in mind. Let this sink in. They're going to be a direct reflection of you. So if you're dicked up doing stupid stuff as an NCO, what do you think your men are going to do? They're going to be like, well, he's doing it, so I'm going to do it. And that's wrong. Since they are going to be a reflection of you, they're your product, you have to set the highest standards. You have to set standards for them to want to emulate. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be perfect, but that means doing the basic things. And it's the basic things that will carry the day, gentlemen. This is what I'm trying to tell you. The basic things will carry the day. Being where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. Taking accountability of all men and equipment, making sure they're in the proper uniform of the day. So if they're in their uniform you're in, you make sure everyone's the same across the board. They have everything they're supposed to have. It starts with those little things, making sure they have a haircut when they're supposed to have a haircut. It shows that you care and that you care about them and you're looking after them. And they will be a reflection of you. And then they will carry those habits forward as well. And then that's going to reflect the higher, because they're going to see that. They're going to say, hey, we got this young corporal sergeant here, heavy hitting, every morning he's checking to make sure his Marines or soldiers, they're all squared away and they're doing what they're supposed to do. He's on them. That's what you're supposed to do. Next thing I want to hit is number 7. Know when and how to discipline them. Now, obviously, one way is just to go off like a loose cannon and start smoking them, yelling and screaming. And yes, there is a time for that, but there are times when it's not. One of the things I learned very early on as a corporal, and my staff sergeant pulled me aside one day. I was burning out a Lance Corporal real hard. And he pulled me aside. He's like, look, I understand why you're chewing his ass, but you may have been a little excessive with it. So you need to start finding that nice balance, a little bit of honey and a little bit of spice. He's like, just don't chew his ass and not have a teaching moment attached to it. Because if you're just chewing him out and then just leaving it at that and not leaving him a path to correct it or to redeem himself or bounce back from it, you're going to lose the guys that are under you. And that stuck with me. So anytime that you decide that you see a discipline issue that you have to discipline, you need to think, What is the appropriate amount of discipline for the particular issue at hand, and have a way forward after you discipline them. Okay. So it's either if you're giving them a negative counseling, or maybe they're belligerent that you need to go smoke them, give them a way to redeem themselves. Like, hey, look, this isn't the end. You're paying for what you did, but you have a chance to bounce back and show me something, and lead them to that. Lead them to that water, and I guarantee you they will drink. I promise you. The next thing is take responsibility. As an NCO, you're in charge. And like I said, your men are a direct reflection of you. So everything they do or fail to do will reflect back on you. I could tell you right now, and you may have already seen this, saying, well, I told them to do this, and they isn't going to cut it, because higher up is going to look at you and say, yeah, but you were in charge of it. So it's at that point, even if your men there are watching, like, hey, look, that screw up, that's on me. They didn't have what they had. I didn't convey it clearly enough, and I wasn't around to supervise to make sure everything was squared away. Take responsibility for that, because your men are going to see that, and they're going to say, like, hey, look, he's not throwing us under the bus. He's taking responsibility for it along with us, and he's going to, sit in the same mud that we are. They will respect you for that. Because if you just try to throw them under the bus and say, well, it's all their fault, not mine, then you're making it sound like you do no wrong. And that is not the way. I am telling you right now, that is not the way. Okay? So as an NCO, you are responsible for everything your men fail to do or do. So keep this in mind. The next two things we're going to hit, counseling. And I mentioned this briefly, but counsel your Marines. And I don't mean a negative counseling, but like maybe every week, maybe once a week, pull them in, counsel them, let them know how they're doing. Let them know, show them areas that you would like to see them improve. And then you and that Marine or soldier come up with a plan to help improve in those areas and keep tabs on it. Because then that's going to show that you care. You want them to excel. It also shows that you're watching. You're watching their performance. Because remember this key phrase, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So constant counseling every week with your Marines or soldiers, sitting them down saying, hey, look, here's what I'm seeing. Here's some areas I think you could improve on. Let's work up a plan to this. And then also ask them if there's other areas that they think, engage their brain. What other areas do you think you see that you can improve on, and do that as well? It's all about being involved and invested. As an NCO, you have to be invested in your men or women. And the last thing is care about them. Genuinely care about the people under your charge. Now, remember what I said in the beginning, if they respect the person wearing the stripes, those stripes have more power than you could ever imagine. Well, this is what brings it home. Genuinely caring about them. Okay? So if you see one of your subordinates, maybe they're not performing right, it looks like they're a little bit in a slump, maybe depressed, pull that guy aside, be like, hey, what's going on? Talk to me. You got to humanize yourself. There's a time to be the NCO and the sergeant all stern, but then there's a time you have to kind of like roll back and humanize yourself and just sit down with them and be like, hey, what's going on? I have had multiple conversations with Marines like this. We sat them down and I'm just like, all right, look, let's take rank off. We're just two guys talking. Let's just talk. Let me know what's going on. And we would just talk it out. And 9 times out of 10, that Marine that I spoke to like that we were figuring out whatever the issue was, he bounced right back. And he continued on doing great things. Why? Because he saw the first person in his leadership as an NCO cared enough about him to take as much time as it was necessary to help him out. So, and I think that's probably the most important takeaway here is, care about the people under your charge, because, we all have things going on in our personal lives. Some good, some bad, and that ties back into knowing your men. The more you know about them, the more you'll be able to spot performance issues. Maybe something's off, and you'll be able to tackle it right away. And doing these things is really going to set you up for success as an NCO, because these habits you're doing now, setting the standard for your guys, getting to know them and all that stuff, you're going to carry that forward either A, into the civilian world if you decide to get out, or further on in your military career. Because then you're going to filter that knowledge down to your junior NCOs when you're a senior enlisted NCO, like a first sergeant, master sergeant, whatever the case. You're going to be then filtering that down. So use this time now. This is some of the best times you'll be in being an E4 or an E5. Okay? To really enrich yourself, really learn these good habits to being a good leader in an NCO. And just keep in mind, it's not all screaming and yelling. All right? Hope you found this video useful. Meet me down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. C-Wire Pop and Smoke. Out.